tomorrow will be better. An object freely falls from 180 meters tall building. Find the distance covered in the last second. Follow me, dear friends. Solution. So many students tried and they wrote to me back and said, "Sir, we do not have enough information to solve this question." But hey, relax. The problem with many students is they don't read in between the lines. With physics and especially in mechanics, there are some keywords and questions which carry a lot of information. In this case in particular, we have that an object freely falls. This freely here means that there was no initial velocity, all right? So just from this word freely, we've already gathered one information. The initial velocity is 0 meters per second. And it freely falls. Free fall means that it's under the influence of the acceleration due to gravity, which is, for simplicity's sake, 10 meters per second. That's another implication of free fall, okay? And now we have the height, which is 180 meters. Now the objective in this question is to start by determining the total fall time, all right? How long does it take in total for the object to fall from that height? All right, that's the first thing. When we get this time, we will now extract 1 second from that time and find out how long it had traveled within that time minus 1 second, all right? And then from there, we can continue with the mathematics. Follow me once more, dear friends, too. I start by finding the total time of fall. Let me put it like this. So, from the third equation, which says, so it's always important to start by writing the equation. H is equal to UT plus half AT squared, all right? In this equation, H is the height, U is the initial velocity, and T is what we are looking for, okay? But this term here will boil down to 0. Why? Because it freely falls, so there was no initial velocity, dear friends. So from here, I have that the height, which is 180 meters, is equal to half times acceleration due to gravity, 10 meters per second, and the time, t squared. From here, if you simplify things very well, I could help you. This already 1, this 5. So divide both sides by 5. So which means, if you divide this by 5, you will have 36. 36 equals t squared. From here, take the square root on both sides. This means t, the time, will be plus or minus, let me write it like this, plus or minus the square root of 36, which is 6 seconds. It is plus or minus 6, but there is no negative time, okay? So we are going to take the positive value of time. Now, this is the total time it takes for this object to cover 180 meters of height. Let us find the time that it takes, or rather, let us find how far the object had already traveled in 5 seconds. Because if it took a total of 6 seconds to fall, let us find how long it took for it to fall in the last 1 second. To do this, we must first of all find how long it had covered in the first 5 seconds, all right? So we will say in 5 seconds, distance covered is, so let us get the distance that this object had already covered in the first 5 seconds of its fall. So to get the distance, we will still use this equation here. So h equals h in 5 seconds, let me put it like this, equals to ut. Again, ut will be 0 because u is 0, right? Will be half times 10, and then now we know the time this time around because, and be careful, the time isn't 10, the time is 10 minus 1 because we want to know the distance it had covered in the first 5 seconds of its fall. So here it's going to be 5 all squared. If you do this correctly, you're going to have here that half of this will be 5, and now 5 squared is 25. 25 times 5 is 125 meters. Therefore, in 5 seconds, this object already covered 125 meters. Therefore, the remaining distance was covered in the last second of its fall. So we will say, so h in last second will be equal to h in the first 5 seconds minus h total. Okay? So h in the last second will be nothing else but 100, no, sorry, it's a reverse. Be very careful here with sign. It will be h total minus h in the first 5 seconds. Okay, so I'll have here 180 meters minus 125 meters. Therefore, this object had covered, if you do this correctly, you will have it at 5 and then 5 and yep, 5. Okay, 55 meters. All right, I hope I'm correct. So, in summary, we first of all have to find the total time it takes for that object to complete the 180 meters. When we get that time, we subtract 1 second from that time and find how far the object had gone within that time minus 1 second, okay? And of course, we do the remaining maths by simply subtracting this to have this, simply because tomorrow will be better.